Thank you all for being here. Needless to say, this morning is an absolute gigantic day in Nebraska. There's so many people here that we want to thank for having the courage to stand up as we sign LB 89 into law, Stand with Women Act. Having the privilege to be the governor of the extraordinary state of Nebraska, I got 4 words, and they're not changing as long as I have the privilege. It's kids, taxes, agriculture, values. This bill is really a big deal for our young people, for our kids, standing up for women, and it's a big deal standing up for the values of Nebraska that all of us believe in, and we have the courage to say it is time that we get comfortable being uncomfortable, talking about what's really, really important. I know you guys won't believe it, but I'm old enough to talk about Title IX, and before there was really a chance for women to compete. In the late 60s, just think about it, in the state of Nebraska, there was not one opportunity for a woman to compete. Volleyball in Nebraska high school started getting played like in 1972. In 73 and 4, I was a line judge at the back. Holy cow, that was pretty bad, right? But maybe my point simply in bringing it up is there has been extraordinary work. There have been pioneers that have stood up so that all women could compete, and that they could compete and be on a level playing field and do extraordinary, extraordinary things. And as we all agree, right, sports is life 101. We learn to get knocked down, we learn to get up, dust ourselves off, and keep going harder the next day. So it's an absolute big day to be able to sign LB 89 and make sure that we simply have a fair playing ground. And I think any athlete understands what fair is and what hard work and determination and grit never gets compromised. So it was really, I was really proud to sign an executive order, and I think it took place shortly after I met you, Jordy, back, we did it in August of 23, a Women's Bill of Rights, and then we were together in DC with President Trump when he signed the executive order, No Men in Women's Sports. So those are gigantic moments, and it's really a big deal to be here to codify it for the state of Nebraska. And with that wouldn't have happened without Senator Kauth. It's gigantic, thank you. We've known each other for a period of time now, and I just admire and respect your grit and determination and never give up. And I think maybe for all of us, and I'm so proud of the senators that are here, yesterday we got to recognize Jordy for her extraordinary accomplishments. Although you're still mad as heck you're not playing yet. Next year you will be. But Jordy was asked about taking some flack for standing up. And her comment was just absolutely brilliant. And all of the people here think the same thing. She just simply said, you know, if you stand up for what you believe, you don't have to worry about anything. I can assure you, as long as I have the privilege to be governor, I pray to God to do his will. Going to be 100% positive, not going to play politics, going to stand up for what we believe in. If you do that, you can't go wrong. So, as I love to say, it is time for all Nebraskans, not just the people here, but every one of us in the room, that we get comfortable being uncomfortable, talking about things that are really important that we have not been very good at. And hopefully this is a day that inspires us all to do a little bit more. So I've talked too long. I want to turn it over to the champion, Senator Kauth. You're the rock star.
We have a lot to get through, and I have a very long list. I told Laura Strimple in the governor's office. It keeps getting longer. I want to say thank you for everyone who is here, everyone who has helped with this, and I'm going to go through a lot of names. We were only able to get the athletic portion on, but I will be back next year bringing the bathrooms and the locker rooms. The work is not done. We're going to continue. It's just so important for me to recognize the diverse group of people who have come together on this issue. And when I say diverse, I have talked to people all over the country, and in fact, all over the world. I've talked to radical feminist organizations, to the Catholic Conference. I've talked to people about this issue, and we might disagree on a lot. We might come at things from different perspectives, but on this issue, that men are men, women are women, and men should not be playing in women's sports, that is something that we agree on. So I'm going to run through my list. First, my staff has done a tremendous amount of work, and they have taken tremendous abuse. I can't tell you the number of times people have called and left nasty messages, or my poor Samantha has to read through emails that are not very pleasant. So I appreciate everything that they have done. Second, the 32 other senators who helped with this bill and recognized it and said, yes, they will vote for it. We can get nothing done on the floor of the legislature without 32 other people being willing to step up. And so I appreciate every single one of them. Senators Hardin, Clements, Anderson, DeKay, McEwen, Lanowski, and Lippincott are here with us today. So please, a round of applause for them. And now I'm going to go through the very long list of people that I reached out to, who I worked with on this bill, and who have sent some representatives, and some people weren't able to make it. Independent Women's Forum, Jordan Kemper sent Ambassadors Riley Gaines and Peyton McNabb, and I am so grateful for their support, and they are really, truly the pioneers of this movement. Jordy Ball with UNL Softball, Rebecca Alec will be here shortly with UNL Volleyball, Clay Anders with the Honesty Project here in Lincoln, Jen Say with XXXY Athletics, Sharon Byrne, the Executive Director of the Women's Liberation Front, author Kara Dansky and Elizabeth Chizik with Women's Declaration International, the LGB Alliance, Erica O'Connell, Matt Sharp, and Selena Soul from Alliance Defending Freedom, Nate Graz, Nebraska Family Alliance, Marilyn Asher, Nebraskans for Founders Values, Marion Miner and Tom Benzer, Nebraska Catholic Conference, Allie Bush, Nebraskans Against Government Overreach Grassroots, Briley, and Briley is special. Briley is a Lincoln Southeast High School student who is having boys in her locker room and bathroom right now. This is happening, and we are going to keep working to fight for Briley. Dr. Greg Brown, who is a brilliant sports physiologist and professor at UNK, he starts speaking, and I have no idea what he's saying, but he has been published internationally on this topic of how boys' bodies are different than girls' bodies, even at very, very young ages. Kaya Wright, who is a feminist activist and attorney in Florida, she would live text me during the debates giving me hints, so I appreciate that. Julia Lane, a feminist activist from San Francisco. Mary Jane Trumper with the NEGOP, Don Ortiz with the Douglas County Republicans, CD3 Chair Chris Vail, Sherry Jones and Elizabeth Tetmeyer from the State Board of Ed, and Bill Williams from Patriotic Productions, who I notice is sitting out in the audience, and Yvonne Williams, who are decided not to stand up here. These are just, and Rebecca is here. Come on up, Rebecca. Rebecca Alec. These are just a few of the people who I spent lots of their time talking, asking for help, finessing the bill, working through it, having them contact, having them use their social media outreach. Every little bit has helped, and I so appreciate everyone who's made the effort. You hear the little girl in the background? That's who we're fighting for. So I thank you all for being here, and I'll turn it back to the governor.
Thank you, Senator Kauth. We're incredibly grateful. Next, who I get the privilege to introduce is really an incredible inspiration to all of us, because being one of the first to stand up and say, what the heck is going on? When, if you really understand Riley Gaines' story, she swam and she had to deal with this guy, and there was not one person for an entire year. There was not a coach, there was not an athletic director, there was not a president of a university that stood up and said, this is wrong. Not one. Until Riley stood up and said, I'm going to fight for myself, and I'm going to fight for the other young people that believe the same thing. So with no further ado, we're really, really grateful for you taking time to be here, Riley. Congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, thank you guys. What a blessing it is to be here with you all today. Lots of thanks to go around. Of course, Governor Pillen, thank you for your leadership, your stewardship on this issue. Senator Kauth, she has been relentless in this pursuit. This has been going on for many legislative sessions at this point. Understand what she has been up against, of course, the opposition. Surprised they're not here today. Maybe it's too early. I don't know. I don't know what the deal is. But even, I will add, people who have ours by their names, there have been lots of pushback that she has faced, but even still, she has persisted with full steam ahead. So thank you, Senator Kauth. To be here, of course, with Peyton, you will hear her incredible story. She has been a fierce leader on the front lines for several years now. To be here with Jordy and Rebecca is the most exciting feat of the day for me. I don't know if you heard Rebecca when she walked in. She said, sorry, I was at Lyft, which is the life of an athlete, something that really only a few people could understand. So thank you for your star power, of course, on the court, on the field, but I believe more importantly in this fight. So thank you, guys. Special for me to be back in the state of Nebraska. I came to Omaha in 2016. That is where I competed for my spot on the Olympic team for Team USA, competed at Olympic trials just down the road. So to be back here several years later now is really special. My name is Riley Gaines. I'm here today to celebrate the tremendous progress in saving women's sports and reclaiming our language. It was back in 2023, I revisited Omaha again, and I met with Governor Pillen and mentioned this new model legislation developed by Independent Women's Voice. It was then called the Women's Bill of Rights. The goal of this legislation was to simply codify and define sex-based terms in law, something we never thought we were going to have to do. Defining words like woman, man, boy, girl, mother, father, male, female in state statute. And at the time, it was fairly new. Only 3 states had done it. Kansas being first, Tennessee second, Oklahoma being the third. That was kind of the end of that conversation, but it was maybe 2 or 3 days later. I will never forget because it was on National Women and Girls in Sports Day, and it was this beautiful feat because it was the Nebraska volleyball team that had garnered over 90,000 people, the most to gather in one place to watch a women's sporting event at any time, and that's when Governor Pillen signed this executive order, so incredibly special. He's a man of integrity, and I thank you, Governor Pillen, for following through on your word. 2 years later, here we are standing together again to celebrate even more progress. As I mentioned, Senator Kauth has spent years advocating at this point for the codification of these sex-based terms and to protect women's sports and spaces. I'm so proud. This is not what I wanted for myself. Shocker, right? Who could want this for themselves? Who could ever expect this, prepare for this, or plan for this? But nonetheless, it's a fight that I'm incredibly proud to be a part of. I don't think there's truthfully a more worthy cause than to be here in Lincoln today with you guys, watching as Nebraska becomes the 28th state to protect women's sports. Congratulations to Nebraskans across the state, to women across the state, all the work that you all have put in to get this over the finish line. Just feeling incredibly grateful and vindicated today, so thank you guys.
Thank you, Riley. We're grateful for you here and grateful for the inspiration you've given to all of us. Your impact will last for generations and generations. Next, I'd like to introduce Peyton McNabb. Peyton's name might not be a household name in Nebraska, but Peyton has overcome extraordinary adversity from being severely injured, competing in volleyball, from taking a ball to her head, went through serious injuries, and the grit and determination to come back, and then to have the courage to stand up and say, no, this cannot happen. What happened to me cannot happen to another young lady. We're really, really proud of you, and thank you for being here. Peyton McNabb.
Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Peyton McNabb. I'm from Murphy, North Carolina. This is my first time in Nebraska, so thank you for having me. I'm an ambassador for Independent Women's Forum, and I started speaking out a couple of years ago after my volleyball injury. That was my senior year of high school. It permanently injured me. My life has never been the same since then. I've had to relearn my new self. My friends and family have had to relearn my new self, and it's just completely frustrating because that should have never happened in the first place. But again, there were adults in North Carolina who were not willing to stand up for myself and for the other girls on my team, which is really unfortunate, but I figured if I shared my story, I could at least prevent it from happening to one other girl. I have a younger sister who is a three-sport athlete, and she deserves to have the fairness and safety that I once had and the opportunities that I once had. So all of this is for her. Unfortunately, my time playing has come to an end. I had the dreams of playing collegiate softball later that year, but all of that was taken away from me because of this guy. If my rights as a female athlete had not been excluded on the basis of being inclusive to allow a male to compete with women, I nor my teammates ever agreed to play against a male athlete. We were forced to by our state athletic association. So I love how much Governor Pillen is fighting for his state and for the women and girls in his state. It's really a blessing to have a governor who cares and sees this issue for how it is. Unfortunately, North Carolina does not have that, and which is why this fight has been so important for me, because that's my home, and if I get blessed enough to have daughters one day, I don't want them to ever think that there's a guy on the other side of the net. I was always very aware of the possibility of injury during competitive play, of course. I was a three-sport athlete. I played volleyball, basketball, and softball my whole life. But my experience on the court that day was different. The hit was so violent that I was knocked unconscious, lying in a fencing position for over 30 seconds. Years later, my body and mind are still recovering from the hit. I still suffer from partial paralysis on my right side, vision problems, cognitive issues, constant headaches, and more. That's really hard, but I have incredible parents who really care about my health and want to see me get better, and I have my Lord and Savior is healing me every day, and so I'm getting a lot better. But of course, there are still things that, I can't even be at school anymore. There's a whole other situation that involved me in the bathroom with a man, and that led me into a 9-month investigation from my university that I had to fight. I ended up winning that this past January and not getting expelled and charged with sexual harassment, which is what this guy was trying to get to happen to me. So unfortunately, I've experienced this gender ideology push in more than one way, and it's just not fair, and no other girl should ever go through that. So I just want to thank Governor Pillen for signing the Stand with Women Act into law today. Thank you to Senator Kauth for your tenacity in ensuring this bill got over the finish line. It's been a multi-year fight, and it's not over yet, but today we make great progress. This bill will protect female athletes from being permanently injured and losing roster spots and titles at the hands of a male player, and define common common sex-based words like woman and man. Women deserve to compete on a level playing field without fear of injury. Thank you, Nebraska, for your codification of this common sense legislation to prevent other female athletes from suffering from injuries such as my own, for taking action to define sex-based words and protect women's privacy and opportunities. Thank you so much.
Next, it's a real privilege to be able to introduce our next two speakers. They're extraordinary stars as athletes in the state of Nebraska that had courage to stand up for what they believe in and do what's right. I've always been a fan of Jordy Ball. I love to read sports section, and man, I was crushed when she went to Oklahoma. But we are so incredibly grateful that Jordy came back home, and your leadership and your impact for the University of Nebraska, not only as an athlete, more importantly, who you are and how you inspire young girls across the state to do the right thing. Really proud of you. Jordy Ball.
First, I guess I just want to say thank you. I've never been more proud to be a Nebraskan. And when I did go to Oklahoma, but then transferred back home, all I could think about was how amazing it was going to be to get to wear the Nebraska jersey and wear that home state proud on my chest. But I never could have imagined how much more pride I would feel in getting to be a part of what ultimately is so much more important than playing softball. And I truly feel like that was part of God's calling and me coming back home. But I just am so thankful for the leadership in this state. It makes me so proud to be here, to be from here, to raise my family here one day. And I just want to also say that in standing up for this, like, it was never out of my own personal interests. I have 1 year left of playing. I was always thinking about the younger athletes, the athletes who haven't even started their careers yet. And so that's where this is at in my heart. And also, yeah, this is an incredible accomplishment. It's something that never should have had to be fought in the first place. But it's incredible to be the 28th state that is getting this done. But again, as the senator said, there's still so much to do. And you heard Peyton's story, like, this is still a serious issue in places beyond the playing field. And so the fight's going to continue. And it's not political, it's right and wrong. So I'm just proud to be here with these people. I'm proud to live in this state with the leadership that we have here. It's truly incredible. And yeah, I'm just so thankful for the opportunity to be a Nebraskan.
Thank you, Jordy. We're really proud of you. And then last but certainly not least, Becca Alec. Becca has been standing up to help make a difference for Nebraskans a long time. She's at rallies when we talk about sexual exploitation that's taken care of. She is stepping up in all sorts of fronts, her and her family, and we're so incredibly grateful for you having the courage to stand up on many fronts, do what's right. Really, really, really proud of all that you do, and proud that you're here today to help us celebrate and your role in this success. Becca?
Hi, guys. Oh, wait, is this high enough? I'll keep this brief. I think Jordy really hit the nail on the head about what it means to be a Nebraskan. I think there's something very special about being able to say that, like, I'm raised from here. I wasn't born here, but I always consider myself raised in Lincoln. This family was an asylum for me and my family, and it just meant nothing more than for me be able to give back. But like she said, I didn't do this because I wanted to put my name on billboards or put my name in papers. I did it because it was a calling from God. I think we all have different moments in our life where we're asked to step up, whether it's greeting someone on the street with kindness or stepping into a commercial to try and save someone's life. So yeah, I think I'm just trying to fight the good fight, and it ends up landing me in places like this. And so I'm just really grateful to be surrounded by independent and individual thinkers. Again, this is not a political matter. This is common sense. We're trying to defend reality, which is such a crazy fight that we have to fight. And though the opposition may not see it now, I think somewhere deep in their soul they know. And so I think if we can just continue to plant those seeds, and later on just know that we did it in their best interest, and for their children's interest as well as my own, God willing. So yeah, I think just continue to pray for one another, pray for this great state, and having people like Jim Pillen in office is what's making the difference, and having people who actually do stuff is a game changer, and it doesn't have to take you being in legislation to be a difference in the community. Go talk to someone that doesn't agree with you. That could be the transition they needed. They just needed someone to talk to, and so yeah, just continue to be a difference maker in small ways. It doesn't have to take doing this, but thank you again for actually getting this done. God bless.
Thank you, Becca. This is another one of those goosebump moments, right? Did everybody have goosebumps? Holy cow, it's extraordinary. Maybe one last comment before we sign the bill into law. There could be Nebraskans that are saying, this isn't happening in Nebraska because there's no way possible. Well, believe it or not, our Nebraska High School Activities Association has had a number of folks approved to compete in athletics in Nebraska. Anybody's stomach just turn over? So this legislation is really a big deal. And Senator Kauth, more work will be done next year. In the meantime, I have confidence that most of the young boys and men in Nebraska know right from wrong, and they'll take care of whoever tries to go into the locker room in a wet restroom, right? Because it is silly that we should be having these conversations. So with that, let's sign the bills, and then we'll take questions from the press. First formal signing of the bill goes to none other than Senator Kauth. The second formal signing goes to, I'm going to call her New Nebraskan, glad we did. And the third formal signing, Peyton, it seems to me you need to move to Nebraska. The fourth formal signing goes to welcome home Jordy Ball. And my fifth formal signing goes to Becca Ellick. And I think Becca and Jordy and I Put our hands up. We are guilty. We love Nebraska. All right, we'd open up for the press. Any questions? Zach?
Senator Kauth, you talked about this being a marathon.
Yes.
Can you talk about how you're going to work through, especially the bathroom and locker rooms next year, if you have one potential Republican holdout on that front?
I will continue trying to work with our potential Republican holdout. I would encourage people in Senator Rapey's district to contact him and let him know that this is important to him. There was a poll done in his district, and over 67% of everyone in the district, Democrats, Independents, Republicans, wanted this bill to pass as is. The Republicans were, I think, 90%, Democrats were about 58%. So this is something that his district does want. So I would encourage anyone to call, and to anyone who's having problems with this, please let your senator know. Call them, ask for help, call my office, ask for help. We can't do much unless we have data, unless we have knowledge. Like I said, we have a very brave young woman, Briley, her parents called me from Lincoln Southeast to let me know that it's going on there and the problems that are happening. But so many young women are afraid to speak out because of the attacks, and I think all of us here have experienced that. So I will continue working on it. Thank you.
Andrew?
You mentioned that folks could call senators. There's really no enforcement mechanism in the bill. I guess, how do you envision this actually playing out in Nebraska?
So the question was, there's no enforcement measure in the 89 that we just passed with the athletics?
Yeah.
Well, there is. I live in a high-trust society. We have to obey laws because we are a high-trust society. If people start saying, well, I'm just not going to obey that law because I don't want to, we start to lose trust in each other. When we pass a law that says boys will not participate on girls' sports, that's what's meant. Now, in that law, I put a part in there that says anyone who's going to participate in sports has to have a doctor's signature saying whether they are a boy or a girl. So, that is now part of state law. Our state law now says the definition of male and female. I would hope that people wouldn't try to thwart that, because then they are committing a crime.
Andrew, to add to it, if a school chooses not to buy, they will have severe problems in the state of Nebraska. It's just pure and simple.
I guess one portion of the bill, obviously, basically if a biological girl is taking hormones to transition, that girl would then be required to play on girls' sports teams. If this bill is about creating fairness, does that present its own problems? Do you basically have somebody taking performance-enhancing drugs and competing against other girls?
It does, and actually that's something that we've looked at. It became very unwieldy trying to get that in there as well. So that's something we'll continue to look at, but again, we need data for that. If you are using performance-enhancing drugs, you should not be competing, and if they're doing testing, then you won't get to compete.
Andrew, you might add, every law that is executed, the purpose is not to come up with every theoretical question you might come up with. Andrew?
Governor, how do you make sure that your message isn't try to erase or try to make people who are trans not welcome in this state?
It's really, really simple. Government for 4 words: kids, taxes, agriculture, values. I'm governor of everybody in the state of Nebraska. I love a trans person like any other person. I just believe in them, our kids, having the ability to grow up and come of age and make the decisions like adult trans are today. So I've had that conversation with several folks that are trans and welcoming. Hey, I don't look and see. I just look at their eyes and treat them as a Nebraskan, pure and simple.
Governor, when it comes to the bathroom portion, you said that if someone goes into a bathroom they aren't supposed to, that the other boys are meant to take care of them. What does that look like to you, to take care of that person?
Well, common sense in Nebraska. Common sense in Nebraska is men and boys don't go into women's restrooms. common sense in Nebraska, and that men and boys don't go into girls' locker rooms. I've never been in a girls' locker room in my life. What the heck? That's common sense. That's what we do in Nebraska. It's important, though, that unfortunately today we got to start talking about it. And it's important everybody in this room gets that. We can't take God's gifts and graces in this extraordinary state for granted. We got to get comfortable being uncomfortable talking about it and say, hey, no, Joey, that thought's wrong. That's not an option.
Governor, some people will say that you're promoting violence towards trans people.
Promoting what?
Promoting violence towards trans people. How do you respond to that?
The question is, I'm promoting violence towards transgenders. That I've said it. I've met with transgenders. I said, look, they tell me their story. I listen to the story, and they said, what's your problem? I don't get what your problem is. I said, I don't have a problem. I love you like any other Nebraskan. Never had a thought of promoting violence to any human being ever. But I've said, what's really important, that we protect our kids so they can make that decision, if that's what it is, when they're old enough and they don't have an adolescent brain, and they make the decision on their own, just like the people I've talked to did. They've shaken my hand and said, I did it, thank you.
One more. In line with that, Governor, what is your message, and Senator Kauth, your message to, say, a 15-year-old person who identifies as trans, who sees this legislation and says, I'm not welcome in Nebraska anymore, I'm going to leave?
The question is, if a 15-year-old is trans and said, I'm not welcome anymore, I'm going to leave. It's really simple. That come to the understanding that they're not welcome is not true. We are protecting all young women in sports. It is not biologically apt for a young boy that says I'm a trans and becoming a woman to compete in sports. It's just not fair, it's not, it's not right, it's not common sense, and that's as simple as that. That doesn't mean they're not welcome, that just means they're not going to compete in sports, period. Black and white, simple, common sense.
And I would add to that, it means they're not going to compete in the sports of the opposite sex. I would welcome them, compete in your sport of your sex. That's what sports is for. They define it differently because there are such extreme differences between males and females. So we want people to be competing, we want people to be participating, but you have to do it in the sport of your biological sex.
One last question.
Yeah, other states have approaches where they might have concurrent tournaments, like in California, they had podium medals for a trans athlete. They might test for testosterone. Why is this the approach that Nebraska should take?
So the question is what other states are doing. It's really simple, because it's Nebraska and we're common sense Nebraska. We don't have any interest in doing what they're doing in California or Maine, for God's sake. This is Nebraska.
And I would respond to that too. The event in California, by saying, oh, we're going to add some extra spots for those women who didn't make it because the man was competing. And please make no mistake, that was a male competing. That is ludicrous. Why they are not saying to this male, you are a great athlete, compete on your male sports team. Those women who stood down from the podium and walked off are heroes. Because we're going to need a whole lot more women to stand up and say, this is wrong. It is wrong to be forced to compete.
I think that's a fantastic note to end our celebration, our press conference. Thank you, press, for being here. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Congratulations to everybody behind the table.